Hello everyone, in this video we're just going to go into the basics of drawing the human head from the front, so it's not going to be too advanced or anything. I'm going to use Photoshop for this, but you can probably use the same methods in any program or, pen and paper, whatever your chosen method is. There's just some tactics, some tricks even, that are in Photoshop that make it a bit easier. So on this page, what I've got laid out here, because I've actually been practicing anatomy at the moment, as in full body. So this is an 8-head full body template, you would say. So what I'm just going to do with it is I am just going to make this a lot bigger, as if we are zoomed in, as the top head, as the head fits into this top box. So that is how I'm going to sort of use this. That may be a bit too big. Okay. So you don't necessarily have to worry about that if you're only doing the head, but if you were doing a full body, you might have a template and showing how it would fit into that, because you usually measure a body by heads, so it's normally between 7 and 8 heads. So just this top box is going to have the head in. So I'm going to start off just by getting a circle shape. Hold down Shift to keep it equal ratio. Okay, so once you've got the circle, put it to around this size. You can see there's probably about I don't know, maybe a quarter of the box left. That's sort of the size that the circle should take up. So I'm going to right click and stroke this. You can just draw that out yourself. There's no reason to do it like this. I'm just doing it so that it turns out a little bit nicer. I am going to do this in quite a sort of sketchy manner anyway, so it's not going to be perfect to look at. It's not going to be particular clean line work, but you could quite easily go over it afterwards, if that's what you're after. Okay, so I'm going to start by just finding roughly the centre line, and that's not too bad. Hold down Shift again with the brush to sort of get a straight line. And I'm going to start just by bringing these bits down, as if it's bringing down to a chin, but don't worry, these don't have to be too perfect, as we are going to go over them anyway. So first things first, if you're using this box, then find about half the box. This usually takes me a couple of attempts. You can just go straight for the head, if you want to find it there, whichever you find easiest. As I say, this usually takes me a couple of attempts. I haven't got the best eye for this. I'd say that's about half. First thing I'm going to do is just dot in some eyes, roughly about halfway either side of this line. So roughly about there and there. Maybe spend a little bit more time than I am doing, just so that you get this better quality. But for the purpose of the video, I'm going to be doing a faster job of this. Okay, right, the first thing I do after getting the eye line, which is exactly halfway, which I'll mark down actually. Let's mark that as half. Sorry about my horrible writing. Okay, next thing, just slightly above, I don't have an exact measurement for this, but just slightly above that, this is going to be our brow line, and we curve it in like this. This comes in handy later on. There's not an exact rule for this, so just sort of, there's a bit of guesswork involved, but it's hard to actually get wrong, so just try your best on that. So that's sort of where our eyebrows would sit, and we're going to bring this next line from this is the shape of the actual the skull, I guess. I'm going to bring that round like this. Try to get roughly the same both sides, symmetrical. Again, not one of my strong points, but right. So from here, I'm just going to put in a little bit of shading under here, just to sort of show the shape, as this does cave in, so this bit here is sticking out a lot. Okay, next thing we do is between this brow line we've got and the bottom of the chin line, which is this one, I should have marked that. We need to find the halfway point between them. I usually find the way I draw it, it's normally not far off the circle. I'm saying that, it's quite far off the circle this time. Typical. Right, so that is going to be the bottom of our nose, roughly. Now, if you already know how to draw a nose, you know, by all means go into a bit more detail. You could literally, if you wanted, you could just do this for a nose. You know, put like a little triangle in just to show. That's just a shaded nose, just to show where it's going to go. I think I'll put in a little bit more detail as I go. So once you've got that, that's 1/3. That's another third. And then if you bring this line further up, and if you find the next third, which should be roughly, yeah, so that is usually about your hairline. I'm not going to actually put any hair on the character, but once you have got hair on, it comes off the skull a bit and round like that, just something to bear in mind. But yeah, that's your hairline, because that can be difficult to find. Okay, next I'm just going to draw in the top eyelid, so keeping the black dot as centered in that eyelid as we can. Again, you want this sort of rough anyway, so that you can refine it and see any mistakes later. And try roughly to get a similar space in between these. I've done maybe that bit a little bit, that middle bit might be a little bit too big, in which case I'll just add in a little bit more. Again, spend a little bit more time on yours and I'm sure it will come out a little bit better than this. Right, next thing I'm going to do is this bottom third here. Sorry, I'll mark that one. Right, this third here. We are going to divide this into thirds. Bear with me while I get that a little bit better. Okay, and this top one is going to be where your upper lip, should I say, sits. So mark that. Again, use shadow if you want. Use a darker line. To find the actual length of the lip, the mouth, you want to bring a line. Hold Shift again if you're using Photoshop, and bring it from the. I use the inside side of the pupil or iris. I forget which is which. So like that. And the shape I use for lips, I usually bring it down a little bit, or bring it up as I go, should I say. Just slightly. Every face is different, it's worth noting, so, you know, a lot of people do have smaller lips or bigger lips. Males usually have a thinner lip, so this would be a male, I guess. You could just make it a lot bigger. I've noticed that like supermodels and stuff always seem to have a huge upper lip. Fair enough. Right, once you've got the lip line there, you want to half, well, you could half this and this, or you could half these, and this is going to be the bottom, the underside of the bottom lip. So just put a straight line for there. You can maybe shape it up like that, just to the sides. And this bottom line here, I usually just use that as drop shadow. But that's not an exact rule of thumb, that's just something I find handy. You'll get drop shadow on the nose as well, and I guess that's kind of what I've done on the eyebrows. If you want, you can sort of fill in this bottom eyelid a little bit. That's really up to you. Okay, so next we're going to put in the ears, or we're going to put in the rough shape of the ears, which starts at this eye line again and goes to the nose line. So just mark, you could just mark in a line for that, to be honest. Okay. It's looking a bit silly at the moment, but don't worry about that. Now that we've got the eyelashes as well, bring a line down the middle here. You could, by the way, be doing these lines on a separate layer so that you can, you know, they're not in your actual final drawing, or you may prefer to do it like a rough version like what I'm doing, and then put a new layer over the top and you know, use a black to go over it so that you don't have these messy lines. Okay, so I usually bring the nose, starting these side bits a little bit higher than that line, just a little bit, and keep them in line with that eyelash. Now again, every nose is different. You could put in nostrils just like that. The nostrils are going to be quite dark. You could join that up if you wanted. This is quite a wide nose, but why not? You know, just put in a rough shape there, just as if there was a ball there. Again, I'm not going to go too much into the nose because I'm keeping this very basic. But hopefully that's recognisable as a nose. That's sort of the main thing at this point. Okay, again with this line, I should have brought this all the way down to the bottom. Not hard to do though. A lot of people use that as the chin line. Again, this is for a male, so they do have slightly wider chins. A female may have a smaller chin, but I bring this line in a little bit more, just personal preference. Everyone does it different. Just going to sketch that in roughly. Okay. Also, this mid line here, this is going to be our actual jawline. So you're going to bring a line down from the skull here, and then across here. Now, if you did it like that, obviously a bit silly, but this is where they meet here. So what I tend to do is bring the line in a little bit, again keep it rough for the moment, and match it up like that, and do the same on the other side. And one thing that actually makes this a bit easier, I should have done this first, sorry, is from this bit here, the shape of this, which I remember me saying earlier that this would come in handy, follow along that line and just marking the side plane of the head. Okay. My head is not perfectly symmetrical, to be honest, although it's not too far off. You know, you spend a bit more time on it and yours will be a lot better, I'm sure. From here, we're going to form the shape of the cheek. We're going to follow this line round, and it's going to go like this. That's the side plane, and then the cheek's going to go like that. So we are exaggerating it slightly, but you can always change that later on if you don't like it. So this is just to get the shape anyway. I try to bring it down roughly to about the same line as the nose line. Okay, so again, the cheek is going to be a very wide part because of the structure of the bone. And again, on this side we're going to match the jaw up again. It's not a straight line. I mean, you could do that. It would look very cartoony, that wouldn't be very realistic. Even this is quite a broad jaw. Again, with a female head, you would probably bring it further in, like there, for example. You know, play around a bit, so see what, you know, this is how people sort of form styles and things. But this typically a broader, wider jaw like this would be a male one. Just neaten this up, and that is pretty much the basics of the head. But I am gonna also just rough in the neck. So from the jawline, I bring this down like this. And these markings here where we had a third, well, 3/3 should I say, so here, I'm going to sort of bring that on this side of this line. Then I'm going to take the widest part of the skull, and I am going to connect the neckline between the two. Now again, this is a very sort of basic neck. You could go quite detailed into the anatomy and things. You have muscles that start up by the ears and come down here. So remember, this is like an M shape, this neck, like that. Obviously a lot neater than that. And that's the shape of the muscle. You know, join them into the middle here. Then if you wanted to go into more detail, you've got like the collarbone here. I think it's a collarbone, but I'm not going to go into that now. And just mark in this here. And if you wanted to do a little bit more, let's see. Oh, I've forgotten the ears, sorry. Again, the ears from this eye line down to this nose line. I'll mark these in again at the end. Should have been doing it whilst I've been going, really, but forgive me, please. Right, I'm not going to put much detail on the ears. You just need the shape, really, to identify an ear. Right. to find how wide it is. Just for when you draw a head, you normally just draw sort of the neck and maybe a bit at the top of the shoulder as well. So we're going to take these measurements just of how wide the head is, and we're going to double them or clone them either side, should I say. This is sort of a male character. Oh, that line's pretty good already, but so he's going to be quite broad. You can always change these are just the basic rules. So sort of your shoulder, if you imagine it's going to be around here, you'd have like your collarbone there, and we're just going to literally put in the trapezius muscle here. You could draw a straight line. I tried to use sort of this point where we've put the I guess it's an Adam's apple where we've put that in. I sort of join it between the two. You can keep it fairly straight if you want, or you could, you know, make it a little bit more realistic and maybe curve it a little bit. Do it a lot neater than me. And then your shoulder comes off there. Quickly marking sort of the chest, you'd have, you know, I'm going to leave that out actually because it looks horrible. And then you could, if you wanted, just quickly marking sort of roughly where the collarbones go, which is sort of from the bottom here in the centre of the neck, just going out towards the shoulder. They do dip a little bit as they go though. Although while you're first learning, it's easy just to keep it as a straight line. Okay, let's see if there's anything we've missed. The only other thing is, if you want to, you could maybe straighten off these bits a little bit. That's preference, I guess it's your choice. Change the shape slightly. Looking at this, I could have made I'm thinking I could have made the actual eyes a lot bigger, but not to worry, it's not the end of the world. I'll quickly just block in a little bit of shading, just to sort of show you, in case you're interested in this. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I'm going to shade the sort of side planes, have it as if the light was coming from above the character, so say light coming down on, sort of hitting here. That would be the most lit up spot. I'm not going to go into too much detail, as I say. Have a bit of drop shadow from the nose. I've already got some from the lip. The upper lip is already shaded as well. Okay, so that would be a very basic one. I mean, you could even start to shade in these bottom eyelid, but I'm not gonna because it looks ridiculous because I've done his eyes too small. And that is pretty much everything for this. Maybe add a bit of drop shadow just under here from the face, or from the head should I say. Now I realise it can get a little bit confusing if you've never drawn a head before, but I'll quickly write these up. Let's hope you can read my messy writing. Hairline, brow line. I haven't actually put any eyebrows on him, but I'm sure you can, you know, put your own eyebrows on. Make him angry. Right. I have already done that one, but I will. Nose, top lip, that is how you do it. Obviously the only problem was I didn't get the eyes spot on, as I mentioned while I was doing it. I think I should have probably done a slightly better job of that. Let me just check these quickly. They're not actually too bad. I think it's more the fact that I think I've done this sort of circle here a little bit too small. I think if I'd have made that bigger, which I'm going to go over now, if I'd have made that bigger in the first place, it probably would have made the overall eye a little bit bigger. Again, it sort of depends what style. If you're doing like a cartoony style, they usually have very large eyes anyway. You can put in a lot more detail, but we're keeping it basic, so that's the basic head. Hope this video was some help. This is my first proper video doing something that's, well, I'm not going to call it complicated, but something like that. So hopefully you can understand some of it. But I'd love to hear your feedback, and if you did enjoy the video and want to see more, please do subscribe. Thanks a lot, guys.